Hello and welcome to this month's Maggie Moment. I have been noticing a lot more in the media, and I know I'm getting more messages about students' reluctance to turn up to school or school refusal completely. And I just want to bat for both sides of this space. We are coming out of a global pandemic, and many of our kids spent an awful lot of time either at home and when at home online, and that means they weren't in real time with other students in those couple of years where we actually are learning so much about feeling safe in the company of others. So I am going to say underneath a lot of this is an increase in social anxiety, getting on with others. And then on top of that, we are now taking this cohort and immediately thinking they can just jump straight back into the school system. Now, our dandelion kids and our rooster kids with a bit more guts and grit, those who are neurotypical, they probably will transition quite easily back in. However, we can't assume the others can. And I think this is exactly what I'm hearing. When I chatted to Adam from Real Schools, he said, look, as soon as we notice this, that's when we really need to take some steps, because we know that neuroplasticity means that everything becomes a habit. So that minor reluctance is we need to sit down and work out and chat to our kids about, okay, so this is a challenge right now and you're feeling anxious. So we need to look at what's under that anxiety. Is it because I'm not sure who to sit with, or I haven't got a friend who greets me, or is it there's just too much going on in the day that I'm not used to yet? And that's particularly for high school with, 5 classroom changes, 5 different teachers and 1,000 kids. That's enough to do a lot of kids into anxiety. So when we kind of can identify, because sometimes it might not have been a big thing initially, but avoiding actually made them feel safer staying at home. So anything to do with anxiety is we need to gradually help them find their bravery and take tiny steps at coming back. I once worked with a girl who was finding it difficult to transition into high school due to a trauma that happened to her when she went to kindergarten, where the teacher held on to her really tightly so that her mum could go when she was distressed, and also shut her in the storeroom so her mum couldn't hear her crying. So all that came back as she transitioned into high school. So when I began working with her, not only did I explore what was under that, and we really did some significant work around the feelings that were still buried in there, that irrational pathway linked to a trauma. I also gave her opportunities to do visualization, where we actually let her see herself in her mind, in her imagination, taking those steps forward. And I think that's one of the things that can be helpful in this space. So there are a couple that I recommend. One of them is accepting myself. So it's a neuro-linguistic programming technique where until you can see yourself doing something, then your brain thinks you can't, and the inner critic has convinced you that it's dangerous, so we want to avoid it. So with visualization, we get in a relaxed space and we see ourselves jumping on into school. We see ourselves high-fiving and helloing. We see ourselves with a smile on our face. We actually imagine ourselves feeling comfortable in that space. So in accepting myself, we create a screen where a student can run a video of themselves enjoying that school transition and getting back into school. And then the more times they do it, the brain thinks it's real. So it's one of those things that can help in a reluctance in this space. Next one, please find someone in the school environment who becomes your child's ally. If it's not their classroom teacher for whatever reason, do they have an ally? It might even be the canteen lady or the people in the front office or the gardener. We've got to have an ally who, as soon as they see your child, their face lights up and they feel, I belong in this space. And then the next one is gently, gently. So easing them back means you may start with half a day. You then may start with a day a week. And then gradually you build that so a child has a capacity to know, I can do that much. Maybe I can do a little more. So again, it is a challenge for many of our students at the moment, and our teachers are struggling with it as well. They're still teaching in an hideously overcrowded, age-inappropriate curriculum that is mandated to them, and they haven't got the amount of time to be able to connect in joyful, fun ways that we used to, even in high school when I was teaching, that make kids feel safe in their classroom environments. So again, work together, but if you can do these things in tiny steps, it may help your child transition back into mainstream schooling if that's where you want them to be, because heck, some of you have to work as well. But do it with love, don't do it with judgment, and don't do it with nagging and lectures, because that won't work. It will simply add to the distress. Work with your child together to problem solve the challenges of not wanting to go into school. I hope that's a little bit helpful for you today.